Darling, your bank account is suffering from withdrawal symptoms and not the kind where money comes out to play. You have become addicted to all the wrong things. Netflix marathons, endless scrolling, and that relationship with a man whose idea of luxury is splitting the bill at Olive Garden. Poor girl activities that keep you exactly where you are, broke and wondering why your life looks nothing like the lifestyle you dream about. I am Duchess Dollars, and trust me when I say this, I have seen both sides. Before I married Mr. Millionaire and started wearing diamonds for breakfast, I was just like you, addicted to behaviors that kept me poor. I used to think putting water in my shampoo bottle to make it last longer was being financially savvy. How embarrassing. Now I know that true financial savvy is training your brain to crave wealth-building activities the way it currently craves TikTok and those hideous sale racks at discount stores. Have you noticed how easy it is to get hooked on things that drain your wallet? You stay up until 3 in the morning watching someone else live their fictional life on screen, then wake up too tired to build your own empire. The irony. It is easier to watch fictional characters hustle than to hustle yourself. You spend hours scrolling through Instagram looking at luxury vacations in Bali that you will never afford because you are too busy scrolling instead of earning. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt that delicious rush of excitement? Was it when you bought those cheap shoes on sale, the ones already falling apart? Or was it when you managed to pay your rent on time and felt accomplished? Darling, that is not excitement. That is surviving. And Duchess Dollars does not do survival mode. Let me tell you something that changed everything for me. Our brains cannot tell the difference between good addictions and bad ones. It simply gets hooked on whatever you repeat. So why not exploit this neurological quirk and get addicted to becoming wealthy instead? My brain used to be wired for poverty. Binge-watching shows, comparing myself to others, and dating men who thought a Timex was a luxury timepiece. But then I had an epiphany while sipping champagne on my 3rd date with a hedge fund manager. What if I became obsessed with activities that filled my bank account instead of emptying it? The first step? I started treating my financial education like a Netflix series. I could not wait for the next episode. Instead of watching Stranger Things, I started learning about interest things. I made wealth building my new addiction. Every morning, I would check my investments before checking Instagram. Every evening, I would read 10 pages of a finance book before watching reality TV. Small habits, darling. That is how addictions start, with tiny, seemingly insignificant actions that your brain eventually cannot live without. Leonardo DiCaprio would never date you if you keep making poor financial choices, and not just because you are probably over 25. If you want to join the wealthy, you need to rewire your neural pathways. Let me be brutally honest with you. Most of you watching are addicted to poverty behaviors. You get that little dopamine hit from buying something cheap that breaks immediately, or from dating men who think a nice dinner means extra guacamole at Chipotle. But Duchess, you say, I cannot afford luxury. Of course you cannot. You are too busy being addicted to things that keep you poor. Do you think I just magically started loving financial spreadsheets? Absolutely not. I had to train my brain the same way you train a puppy, with consistent repetition and rewards. Every time I checked my investments, I treated myself to a small reward. Eventually, my brain started associating wealth building with pleasure. Neuroscience, darling. Use it to your advantage. When I talk to the wives at polo matches, yes, that is where I find my wealthy girlfriends, not at happy hour at Applebee's. They all share one common trait. They are addicted to wealth-building habits. It is not that they were born knowing how to be rich. They simply repeated profitable behaviors until their brains craved them like mine craves the latest Birkin. Let me share what the rich wives at my country club are addicted to. Checking their investment portfolios before checking social media, reading financial news with their morning coffee, networking with purpose instead of just socializing, and saying no to expenses that do not appreciate in value. These women get physically uncomfortable if they go a day without growing their wealth. That is the level of addiction you need to cultivate. One of my friends, who shall remain nameless, but her husband runs one of the largest tech companies in Silicon Valley, actually schedules money dates with herself every week. She spends 2 hours reviewing her finances, learning new investment strategies, and planning her next wealth moves. At first, she had to force herself to do this. Now, she gets anxious if she misses her money date. Her brain is literally addicted to financial growth. The neuroscience is fascinating. Harvard studies show that your brain gets hooked on whatever you do repeatedly. The difference between me and you: I am addicted to checking my investment portfolio while you are addicted to checking your XAS Instagram. Your brain operates on something called the habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. When you feel bored, cue, you scroll through social media, routine. and get a tiny hit of dopamine from seeing something interesting. Reward. The wealthy have the same brain chemistry, but different habits. When they feel bored, they might check their investments, routine, and get excited about growth. Reward. The beauty of neuroscience is that you can literally reprogram your neural pathways. Every time you choose to read a financial book instead of scrolling through social media, you create new neural connections. Within 66 days, that is the scientific average for habit formation, your brain will start craving those wealth-building activities. Did you know that when you learn something new about money, your brain releases the same pleasure chemicals as when you eat chocolate? The difference is that financial knowledge compounds, while chocolate just compounds on your thighs. Sorry, not sorry for the truth bomb, darling. Here is your prescription from Dr. Duchess. Start small. If you currently spend 8 hours watching reality shows about rich people, cut it down to 7 and use that hour to learn about the stock market. Your brain will resist at first. It loves that dopamine hit from seeing drama unfold. But slowly, you will start craving the dopamine from seeing your money grow instead. Let me share my 3-step addiction transfer process. Step 1. Identify your poverty addictions. Is it mindless scrolling? Online shopping for things you do not need? Binge watching shows that teach you nothing? Dating men who expect you to go Dutch on a $2 coffee date? Write them all down. Step 2. For each poverty addiction, create a wealth alternative. Instead of scrolling through Instagram for an hour, read investment news for 15 minutes. Instead of watching reality TV for 3 hours, watch 30 minutes of financial education videos, preferably mine, of course. Instead of dating men who drive Honda Civics, start frequenting places where successful people gather. Charity galas, golf clubs, or even upscale hotel lobbies where you can simply order a sparkling water and observe. Step 3. Use temptation bundling. This is where the magic happens. Only allow yourself to indulge in your poverty addiction after you complete your wealth activity. Want to scroll through social media? Fine, but only after you have spent 15 minutes learning about investments. Your brain will start associating the pleasure of the poverty addiction with the wealth activity, and eventually, the wealth activity itself will become pleasurable. When I first married Mr. Millionaire, I did not know a dividend from a divorcee, but I trained myself to get excited about quarterly earnings the way I used to get excited about season finales. Now my brain literally gets high from reading the Wall Street Journal. Talk about a profitable addiction. Let me give you a real example. Tuesday mornings used to be when I watched trashy reality TV. Now, Tuesday mornings are when I review my investment portfolio. At first, it was torture. I would stare at those numbers and charts feeling nothing but boredom. But I forced myself to do it every Tuesday for just 15 minutes. I made it special. Fancy coffee, classical music playing softly, wearing my silk robe. After about 6 weeks, something magical happened. I started looking forward to Tuesday mornings. My brain began associating those portfolio reviews with pleasure. Now, I actually get antsy if I cannot check my investments on Tuesday mornings. I feel that same rush of anticipation I used to feel before watching my favorite shows. That is what happens when you deliberately rewire your neural pathways to crave wealth-building instead of wealth-draining activities. Mr. Millionaire laughs at me sometimes. Duchess, he says, most women get excited about jewelry. You get excited about compound interest. And you know what? He is right. And that is why he married me instead of one of those basic girls who only know how to spend money, not make it. You see, poor women get addicted to consuming. Rich women get addicted to producing. While you are consuming TikTok videos, I am producing passive income streams. Your brain gets a little hit of pleasure from each scroll, but mine gets orgasmic pleasure from each dollar my money makes while I sleep. Let me break this down even further. There are 2 types of activities in life, those that drain your wealth and those that build it. Watching Netflix drains wealth. You pay a subscription fee and get nothing financial in return. Scrolling social media drains wealth. You waste hours that could be spent earning or learning. Dating men who think Olive Garden is fine dining drains not just your wealth, but your soul, darling. On the flip side, reading financial news builds wealth. You gain knowledge that helps you make better money decisions. Learning a high-income skill builds wealth. You can earn more per hour of your precious time. Networking with successful people builds wealth. Opportunities come from connections, not from your couch. The tragedy is that wealth-draining activities are designed to be addictive. Netflix autoplays the next episode. Social media has infinite scroll. Dating apps give you that little dopamine hit when you match with someone new, even if that someone is destined to ask you to split the check at Chipotle. You need to harness this same addictive psychology and apply it to wealth-building activities. Create your own autoplay for success. After you check your investments, immediately do something else productive. Chain these activities together until your brain starts to crave the entire sequence. The best part? Once you start this habit loop of wealth-building activities, your brain will fight to keep it going. That is how addiction works, darling. Your brain wants to repeat what it knows, so make it no luxury. I will tell you a secret that most financial gurus will not admit. The wealthy are not disciplined. They are addicted. The difference is what they are addicted to. My wealthy friends are not forcing themselves to check their investments, read financial news, or network with other successful people. They do these things automatically because their brains crave the dopamine release these activities provide. Think about your current addictions. Do you have to force yourself to check Instagram? Do you need willpower to binge watch Netflix? Of course not. You do these things automatically because your brain has formed neural pathways that associate these activities with pleasure. Now imagine if your brain formed the same neural pathways around tracking your investments, learning new financial strategies, or building valuable skills. You would do these things automatically, no willpower required. That is the power of addiction transfer. Let me share something personal. I used to be addicted to shopping, buying things I did not need just for that momentary high. Now, I get the same high from watching my investment accounts grow. I literally check them multiple times a day, not because I need to, but because my brain craves that little hit of dopamine when I see the numbers go up. I have transferred my addiction from something that drained my wealth to something that builds it. Even Chanel, my perfectly groomed Pomeranian, understands this concept. I trained her to get excited about the sound of my stock trading app notifications. Now she literally salivates when she hears that I have made money. If a dog can be conditioned to love wealth, so can you. You should see Chanel when my investment app notification sounds. Her little ears perk up, and she runs to me with her tail wagging. Why? Because I deliberately paired that sound with giving her a tiny treat. Now she associates my financial success with her own pleasure. Classical conditioning, at its finest. And if a fluffy little dog with a brain the size of a walnut can form these associations, what excuse do you have? I did the same thing with myself. Every time I completed a wealth-building activity, reviewing my portfolio, reading a financial book, or networking with purpose, I would reward myself with something small but pleasurable. A piece of expensive chocolate, 5 minutes of guilt-free social media scrolling, or a quick peek at the latest designer collection. My brain quickly connected wealth building with pleasure, and now I crave financial activities the way you probably crave that first morning scroll through Instagram. The science behind this is called temptation bundling, coined by behavioral economist Catherine Milkman. It is when you link something you need to do, but might avoid, with something you want to do, like only allowing yourself to watch Netflix while exercising or only enjoying your favorite coffee while reviewing your budget. This teaches your brain to crave the necessary activities because they are paired with immediate pleasure. Do you think Taylor Swift got where she is by spending her evenings watching Netflix? No! She got addicted to creating, to building her empire brick by brick. You think she was born knowing how to negotiate multi-million-dollar contracts? She simply repeated the behaviors that made her successful until her brain craved them more than comfort. Let us be honest about something. Taylor Swift works harder than most of us ever will. But do you think she sits there forcing herself to write songs, plan business strategies, and negotiate deals? No. She has trained her brain to crave productivity and wealth creation. The same dopamine hit you get from watching cat videos, she gets from building her empire. I was reading about her routine recently. Taylor has deliberately structured her life to make wealth building addictive. She surrounds herself with people who motivate and inspire her. She has created environments that trigger her creativity. She has systems that make productivity the path of least resistance. That is not discipline. That is addiction engineering. And before you say, but Duchess, she has always been famous. Let me remind you that she started as a teenage girl, with a dream and a guitar. She did not wait for success to find her. She built habits that made success inevitable. And those habits became so ingrained that they are now automatic. That is what addiction to success looks like. Look at those finance bros in Manhattan. They are not inherently different from you. They have simply conditioned their brains to get excited about market movements. And now they cannot stop. That is the addiction you want. The kind that makes your bank account swell instead of your waistline after a pint of ice cream. Those Wall Street types who wake at 5 a.m. to check the Asian markets? They are not suffering. They are feeding their addiction to financial success. They get genuinely excited about earnings reports the way some people get excited about celebrity gossip. Their palms sweat when they make a successful trade. The same physiological response you might have when finding the perfect item on sale. I have a friend who works at Goldman Sachs. Let me tell you something fascinating about him. He once told me that after years in finance, he physically cannot sleep in past 5 a.m. on weekdays because his body craves the rush of those early market movements. His cortisol levels literally spike around that time automatically. That is not discipline. That is an addiction to success that his body has internalized. These finance people have created environments that make wealth building the default. Their phones notify them of market movements before social media updates. Their social circles discuss investments rather than reality TV. They have deliberately engineered their surroundings to feed their addiction to success. And guess what? You can do exactly the same thing. Here is a little secret from the wealthy circles I frequent. Rich people do not actually have more willpower than you. They have just redirected their addictive tendencies toward profitable endeavors. They are not resisting temptation. They have changed what tempts them. At my last charity gala, the one where tickets cost more than your monthly rent, I sat next to the wife of a tech billionaire. Beautiful woman, impeccably dressed, obviously wealthy. Know what she talked about during dinner? Not gossip or celebrities or fashion. She spent 20 minutes explaining a new tax strategy that would save their family millions, and her eyes literally lit up while discussing it. She was genuinely excited about tax optimization the way some women get excited about shoe sales. That is the difference. The wealthy have programmed their brains to find pleasure in activities that build more wealth. These same people might check their investment accounts compulsively, the same way you check Instagram. They might read financial news obsessively, the same way you binge Netflix shows. The behavior pattern is identical. They have just redirected it toward wealth building rather than wealth draining activities. Another example, my friend who owns multiple businesses checks her sales numbers first thing every morning, not because she is disciplined, but because she gets anxious if she does not know how her company's performed overnight. She has trained her brain to crave that information the same way you might crave your morning social media check. When I was poor, opening my banking app gave me anxiety. Now it gives me butterflies. I literally check it for fun between charity galas. That is what happens when you rewire your neural pathways to crave financial growth. I clearly remember that sick feeling in my stomach whenever I had to check my bank account. Would there be enough for rent? Had I overdrafted again? The anxiety was so bad that I would avoid looking altogether, which only made my finances worse. Now checking my financial accounts is like opening presents on Christmas morning. Will my investments be up? Has that property appreciated? How much passive income rolled in while I was getting my beauty sleep? The difference is not my bank balance. It is my brain's association with financial activities. I deliberately created new neural pathways by pairing financial management with pleasure. I would only allow myself my favorite coffee while reviewing my accounts. I would only watch my guilty pleasure reality shows after spending 30 minutes on financial education. Slowly, my brain began to associate financial activities with positive feelings instead of anxiety. You can do the same thing. Start by removing the negative associations. Many of you avoid financial activities because they make you feel inadequate or anxious. Change the environment. Play your favorite music while reviewing your budget. Reward yourself after checking your accounts. Use beautiful tools, a gorgeous notebook for planning, an app with excellent design for tracking. Make the experience pleasurable and your brain will start to crave it. Start by creating tiny habits. Set a timer for just 15 minutes of focused financial education daily. Your brain will resist at first. It prefers the easy dopamine hit of social media. But after 2 weeks, you will start craving that learning time. After a month, you will feel uncomfortable if you miss it. Let me give you a practical starter plan. Week 1. Commit to just 5 minutes of financial education daily. That is it. 5 minutes of reading about investments, watching educational videos, preferably mine, of course, or reviewing your budget. Make it the same time each day, perhaps right after your morning coffee or just before your evening skincare routine. This creates a trigger for your brain. Week 2. Increase to 10 minutes and add a small reward immediately after. Perhaps a piece of chocolate, a quick scroll through social media, or a few minutes of your favorite music. This pairs the financial activity with pleasure, helping your brain form positive associations. Week 3. Bump it up to 15 minutes and start tracking your streak. Do not break the chain. Your brain loves consistency and gets satisfaction from seeing visual progress. Get one of those wall calendars and put a big red X on each day you complete your financial education. Your brain will start craving the satisfaction of marking that X. Week 4. Now add a social element. Join a financial education community. Find an accountability partner, or simply share something you have learned with a friend. The social validation adds another layer of reward for your brain. I used to be addicted to buying fake designer bags. Now I am addicted to buying dividend-paying stocks. Both give me a rush, but only one keeps giving me money long after the initial thrill is gone. Let us talk about shopping addiction, shall we? I know many of you watching have closets full of fast fashion and knockoff accessories. You buy these things for the momentary thrill, that rush of dopamine when you click purchase or carry the shopping bag out of the store. I get it. I was the same way. But here's the fundamental shift I made. I transferred that same addiction to purchasing assets instead of liabilities. Now I get the same rush from buying shares in luxury companies as I used to get from buying their products. The difference? One depleted my bank account, while the other builds it. This is not about denying yourself pleasure. It is about redirecting your pleasure-seeking toward activities that build wealth rather than drain it. I still experience the excitement of acquisition, but now I am acquiring assets that appreciate rather than depreciate. And here is the beautiful part. The rush lasts longer. When I would buy a fake designer bag, the thrill would fade within days as the poor quality became apparent. But when I buy shares in a solid company, I get little hits of pleasure every time they increase in value, every time they pay a dividend, every time they announce good news. It is the gift that keeps on giving. And please stop dating men who make you split the bill. Not because you need a man to pay for you, but because a man who nickel and dimes you on the first date will drain your energy and resources forever. Get addicted to high standards instead. I promise your brain will thank you when you are vacationing in Aspen instead of arguing over the electric bill. Do not be the woman putting water in her shampoo bottle to make it last longer while dating. A man who thinks Applebee's is fine dining. Seriously, what is that about? You should be with someone who elevates your financial thinking, not someone who drags you down to penny-pinching mediocrity. A man who makes you go Dutch on a first date is showing you exactly who he is. Someone who sees relationships as transactional rather than transformational. Let me tell you where to find wealthy men who are not afraid to invest in relationships: charity galas, golf courses, polo matches, yacht clubs, and upscale hotel lobbies. You will never find your millionaire at happy hour specials or outside the subway. The men who will transform your financial future are not swiping right on dating apps. They are networking at events that cost money to attend. Let me elaborate on this point because it is crucial. I am not saying you should date a man just for his money. What I am saying is that you should evaluate potential partners based on their wealth mindset, not just their current bank balance. A man who insists on splitting a $5 coffee on the first date is showing you his scarcity mindset. He is revealing that he views money as something to hoard rather than as a tool for creating experiences and building a future. Is that really the financial partnership you want? I remember dating a guy before I met Mr. Millionaire. He drove a fancy car but insisted on using coupons at restaurants and calculating exactly what each person owed down to the penny. Know what happened? That same penny-pinching mentality seeped into every aspect of our relationship. He would keep score of who paid for what, who owed whom, constantly calculating rather than connecting. Exhausting. Now my husband, Mr. Millionaire, was different from the start. On our first date, he did not just pay for dinner. He sent a car to pick me up, had flowers waiting at the table, and never once mentioned the cost of anything. Not because he was trying to impress me with money, but because he understood that memorable experiences are worth investing in. When you are vacationing in Aspen instead of arguing over the electric bill. The women in my social circle, the ones with generational wealth and multiple homes, they all understand this principle. They have trained their brains to get more pleasure from growing their empires than from watching reality TV. The dopamine hit they get from a successful investment makes scrolling through Instagram feel like eating plain toast. I have this friend, let us call her Victoria, who inherited millions but has tripled her net worth through her own investments. She confessed to me over brunch at the St. Regis that she gets physically excited when analyzing investment opportunities. It is better than shopping, she told me, because the pleasure never stops. When I buy a dress, the thrill fades. When I buy a promising stock, I get endorphins every time it goes up. These wealthy women have created what neuroscientists call reward loops around financial activities. They have trained their brains to release dopamine, that feel-good chemical, when they engage in wealth-building behaviors. And once those neural pathways are established, they do not need willpower to stick with good financial habits. Their brains literally crave these activities. Another friend in my circle was actually a former shopping addict. She would blow thousands at Bergdorf Eyewear every weekend. Her therapist suggested she redirect that addiction towards something more productive. Now she is obsessed with real estate investments. She still gets to shop, but for properties that generate income rather than clothes that depreciate the moment she wears them. When you understand that your brain gets addicted to whatever you repeat, you realize you have a superpower. You can literally program yourself for wealth. It takes time, but your neural pathways will restructure themselves around your new habits. Let me explain how this works physiologically. Every time you repeat a behavior, your brain creates and strengthens neural pathways, physical connections between neurons. The more you repeat the behavior, the stronger those pathways become. Eventually, these behaviors require almost no conscious effort. They become automatic. This is why you do not have to think about checking Instagram when you wake up. Your hand reaches for your phone automatically. Your brain has created such strong neural pathways around this behavior that it happens without conscious thought. Now imagine if your brain had equally strong neural pathways around checking your investment accounts, reading financial news, or working on your side business. You would do these things automatically. No willpower required. The neuroscience of habit formation gives us a 4-step process: cue, craving, response, reward. Currently, your cue might be boredom, your craving is entertainment, your response is scrolling social media, and your reward is momentary distraction. What if we rewired this? Your cue could still be boredom, but your craving becomes growth. Your response is reading about investments, and your reward is learning something valuable, plus perhaps a small treat to reinforce the behavior. I used to spend hours comparing myself to celebrities online. Now I spend that time comparing investment opportunities. Both activities trigger the same parts of my brain, but one leaves me depressed and broke, while the other makes me rich and empowered. Let me be totally honest with you. I still spend time looking at beautiful things and successful people. I have not suddenly become some boring finance robot who only cares about spreadsheets. The difference is where I direct that comparative energy. Instead of scrolling through Instagram comparing my body to supermodels or my vacations to influencers, I compare investment opportunities. I analyze different stocks, real estate markets, and business ventures. I still get that comparative fix, but it builds my wealth rather than destroying my self-esteem. This is what I mean by addiction transfer. You do not have to fight your basic psychological drives. You just redirect them. If you have a competitive streak, redirect it from competing over looks to competing over investment returns. If you love shopping, start shopping for undervalued stocks or real estate deals. I have a friend who is obsessed with fashion. Blogs. She would spend hours cataloging outfits and following trends. When she decided to build wealth, she did not try to eliminate this detail-oriented behavior. Instead, she transferred it to researching investment trends with the same meticulous attention. Now she has one of the most impressive stock portfolios I have ever seen, because she applies the same obsessive attention to market movements that she used to apply to hemline trends. Even my morning routine has become an addiction. I crave my 5 minutes of financial planning the way I used to crave hitting the snooze button. If I miss it, I feel off all day. That is the kind of healthy addiction that separates the wealthy from the wishful. Let me walk you through my morning wealth addiction. I wake up and immediately resist the urge to check social media. Instead, I check my investment accounts and any financial news alerts that came in overnight. This takes just 2 minutes, but it frames my day with a wealth mindset rather than a consumption mindset. Next, I spend 3 minutes writing down my financial goals and one specific action I will take today to move closer to them. Sometimes it is as simple as research one new investment opportunity or read one article about tax optimization. The point is not how ambitious the action is. It is the consistency of focusing on wealth first thing each morning. I then review my calendar and prioritize activities that build wealth or valuable skills. This ensures that my most important tasks, the ones that actually create financial growth, get my best energy. Only after completing these financial rituals do I allow myself my morning coffee. I have deliberately linked that first delicious sip to completing my financial planning. This creates a powerful reward loop in my brain. Financial planning leads to immediate pleasure. What happens if I skip this routine? I legitimately feel anxious and off balance all day. My brain now craves this financial focus the way it once craved checking social media first thing in the morning. That is addiction transfer in action. If you want this life, if you want to shop at Bergdorf Ass instead of bargain basements, you need to make wealth building as addictive as scrolling through TikTok. Your bank account is simply a reflection of what your brain is addicted to. Let me get real with you for a moment. No one is born loving financial analysis or investment research. No baby comes out of the womb excited about compound interest or tax optimization strategies. These are acquired tastes. Just like coffee or wine or any other sophisticated pleasure, the wealthy simply took the time to develop these tastes. They deliberately exposed themselves to financial activities until their brains began to appreciate and eventually crave them. They paired these activities with immediate rewards until the activities themselves became rewarding. Think about the first time you tried coffee. It was probably bitter and unpleasant. But you kept drinking it, perhaps because you needed the caffeine, or because it was the socially acceptable thing to do at meetings or with friends. Eventually, your taste buds adapted, and now you might crave that morning cup. Financial activities follow the same pattern. At first, reviewing your budget or reading investment news might feel boring or even anxiety-inducing. But if you persist, and especially if you pair these activities with immediate rewards, your brain will adapt. Eventually, you will crave these wealth-building activities. Start by making your financial environment as appealing as possible. Use beautiful notebooks for planning. Choose financial apps with excellent design. Play your favorite music while reviewing your budget. Light a luxury candle while reading about investments. Create an environment that does not feel like punishment. Do you think I was born knowing how to evaluate a good investment property? Of course not. I just repeated the learning process until my brain started craving more knowledge about real estate the way it used to crave gossip about celebrities. When I first started learning about real estate, it was like reading a foreign language. Cap rates, cash-on-cash returns, debt service coverage ratios. I wanted to run back to my comfortable habit of reading celebrity gossip, but I forced myself to spend just 15 minutes each day learning one new concept. I made it pleasurable by rewarding myself with my favorite dessert after each learning session. After a few weeks, something magical happened. I started understanding the terminology. I began seeing patterns. I could look at a property listing and immediately identify potential opportunities. And most importantly, my brain began releasing dopamine when I analyzed real estate deals, the same pleasure chemical it used to release when I read about celebrity breakups. Now, I literally get excited when someone mentions a potential property investment. My heart rate increases. I lean forward in my seat. I am eager to dive into the numbers. My brain has completely rewired its reward system around real estate investment. You can do this with any wealth-building activity. Stock investing, business development, high-income skills, whatever interests you. The key is consistency and reward pairing. Do it regularly and always pair it with something immediately pleasurable until the activity itself becomes pleasurable. Here is your homework. Identify one wealth-draining addiction you currently have. Is it online shopping? Binge watching? Dating men who drive Toyotas? Now replace just 10 minutes of that activity with something that builds wealth. Reading about investments, learning a high-income skill, or networking with people richer than you. Let me make this even more concrete with examples. If you are addicted to online shopping, redirect that same hunting instinct toward finding undervalued stocks or real estate properties. Use the same apps and websites you use for shopping. Research investments instead. Allow yourself to buy something small only after you have spent time researching investments. If you are addicted to social media, start following financial experts and wealth-building accounts. For every 10 minutes you spend scrolling through fashion or celebrity accounts, spend 2 minutes engaging with financial content. Gradually increase the ratio until you are consuming more wealth-building content than wealth-draining content. If you are addicted to dating apps, start frequenting places where successful, wealthy people gather. Take that same energy you put into crafting the perfect dating profile and put it into creating a powerful professional profile or investment plan. Allow yourself dating app time only after you have spent time on wealth-building activities. If you are addicted to Netflix, allow yourself to watch only after completing a wealth-building activity. Better yet, find documentaries about successful entrepreneurs or financial topics that are both entertaining and educational. Train your brain to associate screen time with financial education. Do this every day for 2 weeks. Your brain will fight you at first. It loves those easy dopamine hits from your current addictions. But slowly, you will start craving the new activity. By day 14, you will find yourself looking forward to your wealth-building time. The first few days will be the hardest. Your brain will scream for its familiar dopamine source. You might feel irritable, distracted, or anxious. The same withdrawal symptoms and addict experiences. This is normal. It means your brain is rewiring itself. By day 5 or 6, you will notice the resistance starting to fade. You might find yourself thinking about your wealth-building activity at random times during the day. This is your brain beginning to form new neural pathways. Around day 10, you will have moments where you actually look forward to your wealth-building time. These might be fleeting at first, but they are signs that your addiction transfer is working. Your brain is beginning to associate pleasure with this new activity. By day 14, you should notice a significant shift. The wealth-building activity no longer feels like a chore. You might even catch yourself choosing it over your old addiction sometimes. This is the tipping point, where the new neural pathways are strong enough to compete with the old ones. And the beautiful part? This process works with any wealth-building habit. Want to become addicted to saving money? Start with saving just $1 a day and celebrate each successful day. Want to become addicted to investing? Begin with tiny investments and track your progress obsessively. Your brain loves progress tracking. It is like a video game score for your finances. This is how you hack your brain chemistry to serve your bank account instead of depleting it. It is not about willpower. It is about redirection. And darling, if I could redirect my addictions from fake designer bags to real estate portfolios, you can too. I used to be that girl with a closet full of knockoff designer items, pretending to be rich while my bank account screamed poverty. I would refresh social media constantly, comparing my behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel. I dated men who thought Red Lobster was a fancy night out. I lived from paycheck to minuscule paycheck. But I did not transform my financial life through sheer force of will. I did not suddenly develop discipline or grit or any of those other hustle culture buzzwords. I simply understood how my brain worked, and I redirected its addiction tendencies toward activities that built wealth rather than drained it. I started small, just 5 minutes a day of financial education paired with my favorite chocolate. I tracked my progress obsessively, giving myself dopamine hits from seeing my consistency streak grow. I surrounded myself with images of the wealth I wanted, training my brain to associate these images with pleasure rather than envy. Gradually, these wealth-building activities became my new addictions. My brain began releasing dopamine when I checked my investment accounts. I got a little thrill every time I learned a new financial concept. I felt physically uncomfortable if I went a day without engaging in some form of wealth creation. This is not some mystical law of attraction nonsense. This is practical neuroscience. Understanding how your brain forms habits and addictions, and deliberately directing that process toward wealth rather than waste. Remember, your brain does not care what you get addicted to. It just follows patterns. So give it wealthy patterns to follow. In 6 months, you will be shocked at how different your cravings have become. Your brain is like a garden. It will grow whatever you plant and nurture. Right now, many of you have gardens full of wealth-draining weeds. Social media addiction, mindless consumption, low standards in relationships, procrastination. These weeds are choking out any chance of financial growth. But you do not need to burn down the whole garden and start over. You simply need to start planting seeds of wealth-building habits and nurturing them consistently. Water them with rewards. Fertilize them with progress tracking. Protect them by designing your environment to make wealth-building easy and wealth-draining difficult. Over time, these new plants will grow stronger while the weeds gradually die off from neglect. Your brain will redirect its craving toward these new, healthy financial habits. You will find yourself automatically reaching for financial education instead of social media, automatically checking your investments instead of online shopping sites. This is how lasting wealth is built, not through deprivation and willpower, but through deliberately engineering your habits and addictions to serve your financial goals rather than sabotage them. Most of the wealthy people I know did not get there through superhuman discipline. They got there by making wealth building their default mode, their addiction, their comfort zone. If this video is helping you realize that you have been addicted to broke girl activities, smash that like button and subscribe to my channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss my wealth wisdom. I left links to my favorite wealth building resources in the pinned comment below. Seriously, if you want to transform your financial life, you need to be plugged into this channel. Every week, I share strategies for reprogramming your brain for wealth, whether that is through smart investing, strategic relationships, or building high-income skills. Consider this your prescription for financial detox and wealth addiction development. The wealthy women I know all have one thing in common. They continuously educate themselves about money and wealth creation. They are constantly feeding their wealth addiction with new information, new strategies, new connections. My channel is your gateway to that world, where financial education feels as exciting as celebrity gossip, and where checking your investment accounts gives you the same thrill as checking your likes on Instagram. This is not just about getting rich, although that part is fabulous. This is about freedom. When you redirect your addictions from consumption to creation, from spending to investing, from settling to standards, you free yourself from financial anxiety and limitation. You create a life where abundance is your default rather than scarcity. And if this resonated with you, comment, "Rich habit," so I know who is serious about reprogramming their brain for wealth. I want to see that comment section flooded with "Rich habit," because that tells me you are ready to make this transformation. When you publicly declare your commitment to developing wealth addictions, you activate something powerful in your brain. You create accountability. You signal to your subconscious that this is not just another video you watched, this is a turning point. In my exclusive wealth circles, we have a saying, your public commitments shape your private actions. When you announce your intention to develop rich habits to this community, you are more likely to follow through. It is basic psychology, darling, and I want you to use every psychological advantage available. So type rich habit in the Yao comments and then tell me one wealth-draining activity you are going to replace with a wealth-building activity this week. Be specific. Instead of, I will stop wasting time, say, I will replace 15 minutes of social media with 15 minutes of investment research daily. That specificity creates a clear action plan for your brain to follow. Until next time, stop being addicted to broke and start getting high on wealth. This is Duchess Dollars, reminding you that the only thing better than marrying money is making it yourself. Rich kisses.